One day, Thomas's mother bought him a nice new brown snowsuit. When Thomas saw that snowsuit, he said,
"That is the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. You think I'm going to wear that ugly snowsuit? You're crazy."
Thomas's mother said, "We'll see about that." The next day, when it was time to go to school, Thomas's mother said, "Thomas, put on your snowsuit." And Thomas said, "No." So Thomas's mother picked up Thomas one hand, picked up the snowsuit in the other, tried to stick them together. They had an enormous fight. And when they were done, Thomas was in his snowsuit. Kids, you can't live with them. You don't want to live without them. And by the time they're 3, they think they know everything. This is just the case for Thomas. Although he's only in grade school, he knows what he likes, what he wants, when or will he won't do something. So what happens when Thomas comes face to face with 3 adults who think they're in control? Find out in Thomas's Snowsuit by Robert Muir. Thomas went off to school, hung up his snowsuit. When it was time to go outside, all the other kids jumped into their snowsuits and ran out the door. But not Thomas. The teacher looked at Thomas and said, "Thomas, put on your snowsuit." Thomas said, "No." The teacher jumped up and down and said, "Thomas, put on your snowsuit." And Thomas said, "No." So the teacher picked up Thomas one hand, picked up the snowsuit in the other hand, and tried to stick them together. They had an enormous fight. And when they were done, the dress and the snowsuit were tied into a great big knot on the floor. And Thomas and the teacher were in their underclothes. Just then, the door opened, and in walked the principal. The teacher looked at Thomas and said, "Thomas, it's him. He won't put on his snowsuit." The principal looked at Thomas and said, "Thomas, put on your snowsuit." Thomas said, "No." So the principal picked up Thomas in one hand and picked up the teacher in the other hand. And they had an enormous fight. When they were done, the principal was in the teacher's dress. The teacher was in the principal's suit. And Thomas, he was still in his underclothes. Then, someone yelled out from far out in the playground, "Thomas, come and play!" Thomas ran across the room, jumped into his snowsuit, got his boots on in 2 seconds, and ran out the door. The principal looked at the teacher and said, "Hey, you have on my suit. Take it off now." The teacher said, "Oh no, you have on my dress. You take off my dress first." So they argued and argued and argued, but neither wanted to change first. Just then, Thomas came in from recess. He looked at the principal and looked at the teacher. He picked up the principal in one hand, picked up the teacher in the other hand, and they had an enormous fight. When they were done, Thomas got everyone back into their clothes. The next day, the principal quit his job, moved to Arizona where no one ever wears a snowsuit.